Okay, in thinking about this situation now, looking at the 3D graph of this, which is just a representation of this, but I don't want to use A, B, and C because we used X, Y, and Z, right? And we talk about an A, a B, and a C axis, but yeah, we'd rather think about X, Y, and Z. Okay? The suggestion was, well, let's look at just what we did before. It's exactly what you want to do in the XZ plane, the YZ plane, and the XY plane. Well, the XZ plane has X equals 0, right? That's our has Y equals 0. Okay? And Z equals 0, right? In the XY plane. In the XZ plane. I'm sorry, XY is 0. So 4XY is 0, right? So Z squared is always greater than or equal to 0 in the XY plane, isn't it? Okay? But the only intersection, in the XZ plane, you've just got the value of this function is equal to Z. Okay? And in the YZ plane, you get the same thing. Okay? So it's not going to be very helpful. Because what we're trying to graph is this, right? So if X is 0, Z is 0. If Y is 0, Z is 0. So on the Y and the X axis, you just have the axis. Okay. So we go to the XY plane where things are slightly more interesting. Matter of fact, they're just a whole lot more interesting, except not really. Okay? We get a pretty broad solution. In the XY plane, we can look at where 4XY is less than 0 and where it's greater than 0. Okay? Well, 4XY is less than 0. What has to be so? X and Y have to have opposite signs. That's all there is to it, right? So that occurs only in second and fourth quadrants. Similarly, I didn't write it down. Well, first of all, 4XY equals 0 only in the X and Y axes, but we already kind of dealt with that. And greater than 0 in the first and third quadrants, right? So we could even draw a little graph of the XY plane. Okay. Now, we're actually, though, looking at Z squared. Okay?
It belongs 0.
So, I should have said 4XY greater than 0. Here, 4XY less than 0, and so forth. Okay? And it's Z squared equals 4XY, so if 4XY is less than 0, ain't no Z, right? Because Z squared has to equal 4XY. 4XY is negative. Z squared can't be negative. Yeah, right now we're in real space. So, now 4XY is greater than 0, well then, Z equals 2 square root of XY, right? And here, in the third quadrant, same thing. Well, that's progress. Now, we want to look, so we're kind of done. That's all we can tell about the x-axis, or the xy plane, okay? Now we go to the plane where z equals c. That's some plane above or below the x-axis, right? Okay? Now since z squared equals 4xy, actually, you're not going to get any z's below the x-axis. This is going to be a positive constant, right? And it's not going to be 0, it's going to be greater than 0 because we already dealt with 0, z equals 0, by considering the xy plane. So what do we get in the plane where z equals c?